So for this problem, they want us to find the x and y components of this vector. So what we do is we first draw this graph, right? And then we plug in all the information we know. So the first thing we know is the magnitude. The magnitude, the definition of a magnitude, is the length of the vector. So the length of this vector is 9.45. And then the angle will be specified by the problem. And for this problem, it says that the angle is from the x-axis to the vector. So it's 60 degrees is right here. So now we're just going to do some trig. And before we start, make sure your calculator's in degrees because we're using degrees, right? So that makes sense. Okay, so the first thing I did is make a triangle, right? So we can do our trig. So to make this triangle, how I created it is, see this y component? All I did was shift it right here to make this this side. Because we have already 2/3 of the triangle, all I did was shift this line over here, right? Okay, so this is our angle, and so the side directly across from it is the opposite. And the side, and we know that this is the hypotenuse, so this must be the adjacent side. And since this is on the x-axis, this will be the x component, and since this, I shifted it from the y-axis, this will be the y component. So now we can solve it. And so just to remember the old way to remember, which is SOHCAHTOA, sine, cosine, tangent. Right now we can't use tangent because we don't have the numbers for opposite or adjacent. So the only numbers we have is for hypotenuse. So it can only be sine or cosine. So let's do y first. So for y, we have opposite over hypotenuse, right? So because that, and so if it's opposite over hypotenuse, that'll be sine. So we do sine of the angle, which is 60, equals opposite over hypotenuse. So we just fill in any information we know. So we know that hypotenuse is 9.45, so we plug that in. And now all we do is solve. So we multiply each side by 9.45, and we get 8.18. So once again, this is the opposite side, and the opposite side is with the y component. So the y component is 8.18. Next, we'll solve for the x component. So the x component is the adjacent side over the hypotenuse side. So for the adjacent side, we don't have a number, but for the hypotenuse side, we do. So we can actually plug in 9.45 right here, and then we multiply each side by 9.45, and then you'll get 4.73. And this is cosine because it's adjacent over hypotenuse, so it matches adjacent over hypotenuse, cosine. So then you get your answer of 4.73. And since the adjacent side is correlated with the x component, that's your answer. 4.73 is the x component. So the main thing you see from this is that you have to brush up on your trig skills for this part of physics. So I hope that helped, and thanks for watching.